Какого черта он там делает? What are you talking about here? Hi guys, hi everybody. Can you hear me? How you doing? How are you? How are you feeling? I actually made that video and then how comfortable, like, I don't know, like I scheduled a video about Russia and then of course there was a terrorist attack in Dagestan, in Makhachkala. But who is on, какого черта он там делает? Like, who is doing what? Who are you talking about, Jason? Shayna, thank you so much for being here. Listen to Shayna, she's great, not you here. Please subscribe. Please remember to hit the thumbs up and help us. It helps feed the algorithm and recommends Rebecca's channel to more people. Thank you. Hey Shayna, how you doing? Shalom, shalom. What's his name? Awal? No. How do you read it? It's not. It's Alal. Okay, so is the sound all right? I'm alone today, which feels very different. I've been doing it with other people for some time now. So I feel like, wait, am I supposed to entertain you all now? Just by myself? All by myself. Rebecca, it's time to learn Arabic. Rebecca forgot. See, I used to know how to read stuff, but I forgot. Da, 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 da. You guys, I have so much, like, I've been thinking, like, technically, I have so many stories I can tell you from around this area, you know, just like friend stories. I have my ex's mother is from Makhachkala, and this is Kutais is where my father's family is from. And I have like stories from like Abkhazia. If you guys, do you guys know there was like a civil war between Georgia and Abkhazia? So they're mostly, here they're mostly Muslims. And it's a fun little story that I have is that I was telling my grandpa that I made a video about the Nakba. And I said that that by now the Jordanians and the Lebanese have learned that what the Palestinians are like, and I told them about the case where the Palestinians had played football with the Jordanian soldiers' head. And then my grandpa was like, yeah, the Abkhazians, they did the same. Like they had like, they filled the stadiums and whatever Christians like or Georgians like stayed in this area, they all turned into footballs and they just played with their heads. It was like, he was like, yeah, it was the same. And like, it was the same with the Abkhazians. And when I was like, and it's like, I've only met one person from Abkhazia, like all of my life, basically. Okay, maybe like two, but like one that I've met that actually grew up in Abkhazia, because it's like a closed area, sort of the closed area. Even though, like for example, Sukhumi, like I heard so many stories about my family spending time in Sukhumi, but now it's like off limits because it's in Abkhazia. And this area is Ossetia, which is where Stalin is from. Because when I say Stalin was Georgian, my dad is always like, he was not Georgian, he was Ossetian, they're different people. Oh my God, coping. Thank you so much. Don't be stupid, be a smarty, give Rebecca your money. Yes, please. Give me your money. Michael, 10K. Yes, thank you all for subscribing. Oh, I want to see, do you have any, what are the comments here? Charlie, thank you. Congrats for your 10K subscribers. Could you comment briefly on Gary Kasparov, a true Georgia national hero, having been recently added to the terrorist extremist list in Russia? He's also Jewish. I think he's partially Jewish as well, so it's a good company. I think, I don't remember who's Kasparov. I think is one of his parents is also Jewish. Is it George Kasparov? Let's see, Gary Kasparov. I'm gonna search him up. Let's see. He was born Weinstein, apparently. But he was born in Baku in Azerbaijan. Is this early life? Okay, so his father was Jewish and his mother was Armenian, so not Georgian. Born in Baku, in Azerbaijan. I know it's all close, but no, not Georgian. It's Armenia, Azerbaijan, but not Georgian. And if my dad is saying that Ossetians are not Georgians, like that is what he says, like when he's like Stalin was Georgian. No, he wasn't. He was Ossetian. So I guess Kasparov is not gonna make the cut either. Thank you so much for Charlie for your support. You guys, you should all support me more. It really helps my channel. Atheist Gary Kasparov considers Russia a big threat than Islamist, like a bigger threat, because they have ability. Oh, Jax, thank you. Thank you. Just to say thank you. You're amazing. Georgia, what's Georgia like? The thing, yeah, okay. So basically, Russia is like 20-25% Muslims. And at some point, there are videos of Putin had decided that he can somehow cooperate with the Russians. And, you know, when you go to sleep with dogs, don't be surprised that you wake up with fleas. So what we see now is that, I think, so yesterday, was it? Where was it? The Dagestan. Let me see, I opened up. Russia's Dagestan region in mourning for 19 killed in attacks on synagogue and churches. So that's amazing. 15 police officers among the dead. Gunmen said to include 2 sons and nephew of head of the Kremlin's United Russia Party regional branch. Authorities say all 5 attackers are dead. Like, this is what happens. Like, this is what happens when you think you can have fun with Islamists. When you think you can cooperate with Islam. Like, what did Putin doesn't think, obviously, but yeah, this is what happens. And by the way, it's the same area, Dagestan airport, if I'm not mistaken, is where they had the airport thing, where they burst into the airport and looked for Jews to play football with. I think they didn't find any Jews to play football with, but this is the same area, I think, that it happened. I see. Damn, you're half Georgian. I am. And I also have a cousin who is half Georgian. Like her dad is a Christian Georgian. And I grew up like, she used to argue, like when we were little, I was like, Georgians look like this and like that. And she would be like, no, only Jews look like that. Georgians don't look like that. And I was like, no way. I didn't believe her that Georgians looked so different than Jewish Georgians until I went to Georgia and I was like, oh, my cousin was right. It looks like a completely different animal. But they were living in the same neighborhood and everything. But they look so different. Like my family, like Jewish Georgians, like they look a lot more Middle Eastern, to be honest. Like the Georgians look a lot more Central Asian. I mean, not like they don't have like more like Turks maybe. But Georgian Jews look a lot like just Middle Eastern people. So I've discovered that they indeed don't look the same, even though I was arguing like my whole childhood. I was like saying that Georgians look a certain way, and my cousin who had some Georgian pride, she was like, no, we don't look like you guys at all. I mean, she's like, she owns like, she boasts like, yeah, but she was like, no, Georgian, they don't look like. And apparently she was right. No, I cannot. I can understand a little bit of Georgian, but I can't read Georgian, unfortunately. All right. I asked my dad to teach me Georgian, and he told me that it's a useless language and it's a waste of time, and I should focus on something more useful. Yeah, that was me being a little like a child asking for my dad to teach me some Georgian. So, what new stupid things? I mean, do you guys want me to talk about that more? Because to me, it's about the Muslim Islamic problem in Russia. It's just the same as everywhere. There are areas in Russia like Chechnya, Dagestan, Tatarstan that are Muslim in principle, and wherever there is Islam, there is that, and a combination of them being like isolated mountain people. Like I grew up like my dad would always say like, nah, the Arabs are like sweet and cute compared to Chechens, like. So it's all in comparison. But I guess it's not that far-fetched, right? Like at least the Abkhazians had the same football game that the Palestinians had in Jordan. I guess like there is a limit to human creativity when it comes to. So anyway, all those Kazan is Muslim. But it's tame, like at least for now. It depends, it's like everything is nice and good and like sugar and spice until you get radicalization, right? So everything is okay as long as they don't know how to read, and then once they know how to read and they go back to their books, then it's a problem because their books are problematic. What's here? Copying, yes, talk. Russia isn't Islam, but worse with Islam. So, okay. So the history with this romance with Islam and Russia started a long, long time ago. Basically because there Russia wanted to have its influence on the Middle East area. You can say a lot of things about the Russians, right? But something I like saying, okay, so the number one problem with Russia is, of course, the weather. And if they want to have places to go to vacation to, then they need to have access to this area in general. But the thing is that, like, with Russia, I always think like it's ego-driven, to be honest. Like, it's Mother Russia. It's still an empire in a sense, because nothing here is really connected. Like people in Tatarstan and Dagestan and like all those places, those are different. Those are states, but unlike states in America, they all have their own languages, their own culture, their own everything. Like this Russia is basically just a bunch, like this is just Moscow. Russia is Moscow, and it's just everything else is just conquered. So it's not like the Chinese that everywhere it's mostly Han Chinese wherever they control. And when they got the Tibetan plateau, they made sure to turn the Tibetans into minority in those areas because they can do it. They swelled the population around the Tibetan plateau. Russia is still, even though it is like, people are living everywhere, it is a very, it's a beast that, I don't know if there's something similar to it, because even like India, it has Hinduism, it has like histories, philosophical ideas and things like that they share in common. Russia is like it's hardcore. We have the central, this is like central, like this is Hunger Games, right? They to fight Ukraine, they would go to all those like, those areas, and they just grab the men and force them into the army and dress them up and send them to Ukraine to die. And they don't even care because like the only Russians are actually in the Moscow area. And then you have like Kazan. Kazan is kind of like, they have some power as well, but like St. Petersburg too, but even though Kazan are Muslims, right? But yes, it's like Yakutsk. They speak a Turkic language, like, yes, but they have to learn Russian, and it's kind of their second language. And everywhere especially here in this area, it's like, it's not even, it's completely made out of tribes. It's a geographically elevated area. Those are mountains here. It just a lot of different people, a lot of different traditions, like villages that like they don't speak the same languages at all. They're all what they all have in common is being kind of primitive, to be honest. That's what they have in common. Let me see what comments you have. So Russia is like, they have Russians, like they have okay, so I don't know how to explain, but like when you have like a passport, right, in Russia, you would have your nationality written down. For Jews, it was Jewish. Your nationality was Jewish. Georgian, Armenian, Tatar, Chechen. Like, and then every person, like, you stop and like you ask, okay, what's your nationality? You'd see that they have different nationalities, and every nationality has a completely different culture. So it's not even coherent. So Russia is like seeping its own culture. Like everybody speaks Russian más o menos. Like the areas here, there would be people who don't even speak Russian that well. They're just different tribes, different people. It's chaos. And to be honest, like, and then Moscow, like they try to find like those local tribe leaders that they can cooperate with. And to be honest, when I heard about Ukraine war, is like, okay, so I won't be surprised that on that war, they're gonna try to get rid as many people as they can from those areas that that are problematic. But they didn't cooperate as much as the Moscow wanted them. So it wasn't so they had to sacrifice their own good men. It wasn't so easy to send others to do whatever they want. So it's kind of complicated. So what holds Russia, right? So Russia, like they had communism, and communism like was this ideological thing that they could have unified them. But the other like ideological thing that unifies Russia kind of is like the thought that they are this powerhouse. Like this is a ego-driven nation. Like this is how I say it. Like Russia is ego-driven. So let's see. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's not like, yeah, everything in Russia is complicated because, like, I like Russians. I can talk to Russians. I have friends from Russia. To be honest, like, I understand, like, they're very direct culture. They're very good friends once you get to know them. The problem is that it's a depressed nation. They're depressed. They're depressed. To be honest, like, they need sun. Super depressed nation. Yeah, like Russia is 20% Muslim. So another way, by the way, that Russia like managed, but like before they had like the KGB, like that was part of the communism, was replaced kind of by the Russian Orthodoxy that played the same role. So the Russian, like the Christianity in Russia was the way that they controlled Russia as well. So so Russia, like going into, it's a country that like they need a national purpose kind of situation. Going to Ukraine, did it make sense? Did it not make sense? If this is why I have this, I saw this from Nigel Farage. I want to address that. I saw his speech.
To expand, stated its territorial claim on the Ukraine some years ago. This EU empire, ever seeking to expand,
can you guys hear it? By the way, like, can you guys hear what he's saying? I want to see that you can hear. Let's see. Region was part of old Tartary under various Khans. Yeah. By the way, the Tartars massacres are very famous, like the Khans, and like they massacred a shit ton of Jews. Putin used to work for the KGB, yes. He did. By the way, do you guys, okay, so here's the question. So somebody pointed out to me so that maybe I should say KGB because this is how it's pronounced in English and not KGB, and that me saying KGB is confusing. Is it confusing? And thank you, Loricetto. Michael, thank you. Hi. Yeah, Russian Orthodoxy kept the empire together. Yes. The Russian Orthodoxy is what the KGB replaced. And then it went back to that, like you can see, like there was the whole returning to church kind of movement. Yeah, the imperialism in Russia, like the way Russia structures is very connected to the church. Anyway, Russia is complicated, but it is a central, like, this is a Roman Empire kind of situation. You have the provinces and everything, all the riches flow to the capital. Everything flows to the capital. Let's see. I know about Russia. Russia is not much problem as you think. There was no Ukraine. It's created by Lenin and Stalin, called land. Kiev, Rus was always belongs to Russia. Okay, Sivoy. Here's the thing. Technically, not wrong, right? But. The problem is that because Russia treats everything as every other state as like a province that is meant to they're kind of slaves to the regional area. It makes sense for the Ukrainians to not want to be slaves to that, doesn't it? Like, I agree with that. Technically, there is no difference between Ukraine and Russia, okay? There is none. Not really, not historically. It's not a complete lie. They do have their own Ukrainian accent and everything like that, but saying that that they historically they don't belong together, not true. But that's because but it's the same. Just because they were, doesn't mean that Russia f's up, right? It's not the best government. Like it makes sense for the Ukrainians not to want to, that they wouldn't want to be part of this rule. Michael, while Moscow was the third Rome according to Russian history. Well, that describes it pretty accurately, to be honest. What else are you guys? You see no problem in NATO making people in many parts of the world slave-like? Let me see. I'm gonna say like that. Two wrongs don't make a right, right? NATO, for Ukraine to rely on NATO or think that that would save them from them not understanding that they're just signing up to a different kind of enslavement, doesn't make it not okay for them not wanting to be enslaved to the Russians. So that's my argument. Like, if Russia could have offered like a government that is impressive or something like I understand yes, Ukraine was historically, is there a much difference between the Ukrainians and the Russians? Absolutely not. But still, at some point we were all Africans. That doesn't mean you cannot break away from it. You can, time evolves and people change and you have differences. And I understand, to me, the smart thing, was it smart the way Ukraine enacted? No, the Ukrainians were not smart at all, because I think they had to try to strive as much as independence as they could, in general by themselves, and then be like cooperative with like both Europe and Russia. And like, I mean, in theory, Belarus kind of does that. Like it was like the part where, you know, you use all this goods that are banned, like go from Belarus, even though it's now a dictatorship, and obviously they got caught and it doesn't work anymore. But like the Ukraine has the right to decide for themselves. Did they play their cards smart? No. Was Russia correct in perceiving that as a threat? Yes and no, to my idea. Okay, so let's listen to what Nigel Farage said. To be honest, I'm listening the first time with you guys.
This EU empire, ever seeking to expand, stated its territorial claim on the Ukraine some years ago. Just to make that worse, of course, some NATO members said they too would like the Ukraine to join NATO. We directly encouraged the uprising in the Ukraine that led to the toppling of the President Yanukovych, and that led, of course, in turn to Vladimir Putin reacting. And the moral of the story is, if you poke the Russian bear with a stick, don't be surprised when he reacts. Now, just to continue with that, today we are rushing through an association agreement at undue speed with the Ukraine, and as we speak, there are NATO soldiers engaged in military exercises in the Ukraine. Have we taken leave of our senses? Do we actually want to have a war with Putin? Because if we do, we're certainly going about it the right way. Perhaps we ought to recognise that the West now faces the biggest threat and crisis to our way of life that we have seen for over 70 years.
Okay. So I would say that if you decide to poke, yes, I think if NATO and everything, like they doing anything over the head of Russia is the biggest mistake, because Russia feels like it's important. And if it feels like they are viewed as unimportant, and they also, like, the mindset that they had is that that the West played into a psychological trap that the Russian already had, as far as long as what I see it, right? Russia in the USSR built the narrative where the West is against it, right? And the West hates them, and the West hates Russian. And when it did that, like when the West was like kept treating Russia that way, they fell like straight into this psychological trap of making Russia feel like, oh wow, all our fears were correct. Like we are isolated. They don't see us as someone to talk to or to be on equal terms with or negotiate, like that, doing those things above Russia, right? Like not going through Russia, not going directly to Russia, not having this, but having like keeping Russia all the time at arm's length, pushed Russia deeper into that, like they already had that mindset, and that it's just push them into it. And then once you already do that, then once you already poke the bear, you go behind the bear and you talk to Ukraine. And you play to that. There are two things there, right? You hurt Russia's ego, and there is the falling into the trap of Russia feels isolated, right? So that was the trap, right? The Russian people, they wanted the West to accept them. I'm sure of that. Like they wanted to feel part of the nations. Like the USSR fell, and they also like felt like, okay, but they didn't get that. Like they didn't get that, and the ego was 100% there. Like Russia sees itself as an empire. This is always their main site, because they were always an empire. Russia is, like I said, like the biggest country on earth. A lot of different states. You have one ruling in Moscow, whether it be through the Russian Orthodox Church or the Imperial and the imperialist, like the, or whether it's the communist regime or now, it's that kind of mindset. So for Russia, like to, if you crunch that away, if Russia doesn't feel like that, then what's Russia? What is Russia if it's not an imperial power? What's left of Russia? They don't have a different story to tell. So, and then this isolationist and like, okay, so if you don't treat, like if you treat Russia like you play the role right, you give them like, oh, Russia so strong and so amazing, oh, how much we want to be friends with you and we're so excited to get to know the Russian people. But if you're going to like, you're like keep your distance away from Russia, that's it, like it's, you're falling in trap. And then the other mistake is like, okay, you want to have Ukraine and talk with Ukraine about having that as part of NATO, then be ready to go all the way. Then you have to break Russia apart. That's the only way to go. You cannot go like halfway. You cannot just like he said, like if you poke a bear, then be ready to fight a bear. Don't be ready, like there is no half here. There is no middle ground. I see, what are you guys writing? Copying, Ukraine could a plague or cholera, but got both. Yeah, for sure. That's the game. Israel is suffering from the same thing. Like, it's like what? America is cholera, but Russia is plague. Like when Israel was at the crossroads, like who are you? How are we playing with? And once Israel chose a side, like it was ready to go all the way. Like it chose the United States, even though the United States it's not an equal relationship. Israel gives way more than the United States give Israel. We're in. Like we're 100% in with that kind of thinking. Which is like, but Israel after the USSR fell did try, like warmed up to Russia, did understand, they did play that game. Putin appreciated Israel, but then when the West started poking the bear, then it left Israel as like we can, it's that's it, like we're stuck, and the West is the only choice we have, and it's the same way it was with the USSR. The Aurelic tribes. Shalom, Rebecca. Did you see the debate between Douglas Murray and Mardi Hassan? The Wagentists made videos about how Marty won the debate. I haven't actually. I've only seen him, like a little bit parts of it. And I understand that Marty Hassan is like is an Al Jazeera reporter, journalist, but like now we have a strong indication that actually it's maybe synonymous with being a terrorist yourself. So Michael, yes. USSR was the only country out there to support Israel. In return, Israel cheated the USSR. Stalin was one of the founding fathers of Israel. I said it before. The reason Israel did that is because Israel didn't like the way the USSR treated its own citizens, and the Israelis and Israel and Jews like in general are. Even to their detriment, right? Even if it goes against the interests of Israel, are very moral-based, very morality-based motivated. And because Russia did not follow the morality when it comes to their own citizens, I'm not talking about the way it treated Israel, because in a way you're not completely wrong, okay? You're not completely right, you're not completely wrong. But it's a morality thing. It's also the thought is like we do not believe in working with those who are willing to put their own citizens in the gulag, and it's not gonna end well long term, because We don't believe that this kind of ideology, this is why Jews are being chased for centuries, right? Because Jews insist that they believe in an ideology that that makes them uncooperative with the totalitarian regimes, basically. And that is why Jews were always a threat to a dictatorship, always. The Uralic tribes, actually, there were Western governments officials who used the corruption in Russia in the 90s to bribe corrupt officials to steal Russia's resources and funded terror against Russia in the Caucasus. I mean, yeah, thank you a lot for your support. It's things are complicated. Things are not pretty. That's the reality. Like, things are not straightforward. It is very complicated. To this day, I say the number one problem, right? Like, Russia was there for the Jews. It was the only place the Jews could run to during World War II, because the United States closed the gates. The Jews could not, if during the Holocaust, Jews could not flee to the United States, and unless they knew how to build an atom bomb, and then they were welcome and actually flown. They get special like lift. But if they weren't that kind of type, like children, then the Russia was actually their only choice. So it is complicated. But Russia, what the way, and like I said, when the war started, people ask me, what's the problem with Russia entering Ukraine? Because the Russian army was not ready. They're sending people without guns. Then they're sending their own people to get butchered in Ukraine. They don't care about their own population. If Russia did it properly, then we can start talking about whether or not going to Ukraine was correct. Like in the Russian perspective or world perspective, whatever perspective. But the first litmus test, the first test is how you treat your own army, how you treat your own people. And Russia continuously fails in that. And that's the problem. You're speaking about the way the country is treating people, which is exaggeration and fake narrative. It's not, because I happen to have a shit ton of stories from my own family that prove that point. It's not exaggerated and it's not fake narrative. It's reality. Russia, it also, part of it is also mismanagement, right? It's like the grab what you can kind of mentality. It's like, where do you live? In Moscow, you can get anything. You could get anything even in the communist times. Like you travel to Moscow to buy boots, because there are no boots anywhere else outside of Moscow. Like, if you are positioned correctly, you're not gonna see what the pyramid scheme that is Russia. But if you are not positioned correctly, then you can see. They can see that Russia is a pyramid. It's a pyramid scheme. It's not a merit-based, fair-based society at all. So let's see. Let's talk more about Russia. So let's see what's other. Putin warns South Korea against arming Ukraine, of course. Like Russia going and playing around with North Korea More than anything, this is like a sign of desperation, to be honest. Like, you know, you dig yourself, they climb on a tree, and there is no way down, so they climb higher on a tree. Mr. Putin also warned that Moscow is willing to arm Pyongyang if the US and its allies continue supplying Ukraine with weapons. Copying US is a pyramid too, and they've not adapted. Yeah, but they're smart about it because they're an international pyramid. Not a local pyramid. It's an international one. But, in general, they run their pyramid better. We had, like, under the American pyramid, if you are lucky to fall under the American pyramid directly, then it's more likely than not that you're not going to starve, which is not true under a different kinds of pyramids where you're gonna get the worst kind of life a human can live. Not just like nice slavery, but the hardcore awful slavery, you know. The Uralic tribes. Many, like Eric Stackelbeck, believe that Russia is related to Ezekiel 38-39 causes of alliance with Iran, but Russia has no interest in invading Israel. Yeah, I don't think they have. And I don't think their alliance with the Islamic and Iran is very natural to them, to be honest. I think this is also why they're going more towards eastwards. I think what they're looking for is a ways to continue the war. I'm not sure that, to be honest, I'm not sure they use any logic at all, to be honest, when thinking. I think right now the only thing they're thinking about is how to wrap things up with Ukraine, or how to conquer Ukraine, or how to have the ability to fight Ukraine in a way that feeds their ego. So whatever it is, like the end goal is to have a story where Russia is strong and amazing, is cool, and like the ego is still intact. That's the direction they're going to. Like, it's a kind of like, what story is Russia trying to build? Like, if I were in that, communicating with Russia and stuff, like my main question is like, to Putin would be like, what story are you trying to build here? Like, what's the end story? And yeah, and okay, and it's interesting the way it works. Like, also, like, Russia has to be anti-Semitic by nature because, like I said before, when you have a country that is built in a way that they're like in this way, like Jews are a problem. Like Jews, like I said, like when I made my video on anti-Semitism, my approach was, what if my basic assumption would be that the anti-Semites are correct? And then once you start thinking that way, it completely changes the way you look at anti-Semitism. Because anti-Semitism makes perfect sense if your government structure is in direct conflict with the concept of equality before the law, or all humans were created in the image of God. Copy and thank you. The US is still warning Russia gaining everywhere. Yep. Poland, Israel, Russia is anti-Semitic? Yes, very. Very anti-Semitic. The Uralic tribes actually know they want to end the war. Putin openly called for peace, and there was peace talk between Russia and Ukraine in Turkey, but Boris stopped it. What Boris? I don't remember. Who's Boris? Can you remind me? Yeah, I think, like I said, like Russia is fighting to have a story, right? If you ask me what's Russia's goal is to have a story that fits their ego. If they reach peace with a story that they've managed to get something, then yeah, that's what I think, to be honest. Boris Johnson. Warning, waning, not warning. Okay, sorry, it looks waning. They're falling behind and caught up by Russia. You know, the problem is here, right? It's not the body. It's like you have like the best, like you have everything you can, but your brain is damaged. That's the problem with the West right now. The West, like the West has brain damage. Yeah, because Russian peace means Ukraine gave up their land. Of course, the Ukrainians rejected. Listen, if the Ukrainians are gonna be somehow smart enough to come up with a story where Russia is amazing and winning, and they have their ego intact, and without giving up their land, then they should like really, like, this is what maybe some Ukrainians like they like should be sitting in a room and like writing down stories and sending like narratives, like asking Russia what narrative speaks to them. Why can't I see it? Bookmouse, US has gotten rotten. Biden is clearly is certainly dementia. I'm learning that I cannot read. This is what I'm learning. Yeah, the US has gotten rotten. Biden is just like, you know, it's the tip of the iceberg, to be honest. Right. When you have any questions more about Russia? The other problem that Russia has, it's funny that they accept Gazans to come. Russia is actually suffering from lack of men. I don't know many other nations where like the Russians. I talked about it on my video on things that we take for granted, and that was mother's love. I talk about Russia there because they have problem with not liking men, and that means that their men are disappearing. So are there any more questions on Russia, you guys? The thing that I know, like so another thing that is problematic with the USA and Russia is that the personalities of the Russians and the Americans are like exactly opposite. Exactly opposite. When Russians are not nice until you're friends with them, and once you're friends with them, that's it. You can trust them. Like they are your friends, they would give you everything. We have the Americans, it feels like it's the other way around. They are nice to you. They will smile to you. But the longer you get to know them, then the longer the chances are that they're going to stab you in the back. So they have the exact opposite personalities, the exact opposite. It's like they are speaking in parallel. The Uralic tribes. Actually, Zelensky lied about the Ukrainian casualties numbering in 30K. They actually lost over 607K, while Russia lost 150K to 200K. Russia gets 1K volunteers for the army every day. Listen, Ukraine, let's be honest, Ukraine was also like very, very corrupt. Like, they knew that Russia is going to invade for a very, very long time, but they didn't do much. Bruce 6. Rebecca, have you been to Russia? Yes, I've been to Russia. I love Russia. I love Russians, to be honest. Like, it's not that I hate them, but they're very xenophobic. Paul, in Israel, in your opinion, is the majority of Russian anti-Semitic, and how do you know? So right now, I'm not sure. The thing is that anti-Semitism in Russia was very systematic anti-Semitism. I don't always feel like the Russians are more anti-Semitic than the Western people, to be honest. But in Russia, it was always systematized. So if you are a Jew and you want to get accepted to university, you had to be 10 times better than anyone else to get accepted. Like, you had to be exceptional to get accepted. The standards were very, very high. And like, people would always like, those Jews, like those kind of comments, or like, the Jews do that, and they're like, it's irridi. And a lot of like comments about like, oh, that's a Jew, you can see, ugh, those Jews, and like, getting those kind of remarks, even in the street. It's very systematic in Russia. But like I said, like, getting to know, like, my experience is that even though it's in your face, I'm not sure it's worse than Western anti-Semitism. It's just different because it's like in your face, and like you like open. Like, Western is scary. Western is like under the hood. It's like, it's gonna attack you. But they're gonna pretend to be like they're not, And it's like, it's weird the way it is. Like, Russia is xenophobic, I'm sorry to tell you. Russia isn't xenophobic either. They have over 20 million Muslims and have a greater Russian Islamic. It's neo-Bolshevik dictatorship, and Putin given sedition half of Africa. Russia is diverse. Yeah, they have a shortage of humans, but that doesn't mean they're not xenophobic. They're still xenophobic. But Islam in Russia is a problem. Islam is a problem wherever it is. Okay, any questions? By the way, like, just to be clear, right? Like, Russia is vast, is huge. But they don't joke around, let me tell you. Stalin did plan a Holocaust for the Jews. He just happened to have a stroke on time. So that was nice. Nice of him to die. All right. Will Islam take over Russia? Maybe. I don't know. I think not. I think the Russians will fight back, but Islam is it's gonna get violent. But you know, the Russians, they have nothing stopping them. They don't have this fake morality. Like if some ISIS person is doing something, that then they get to eat their own ear. Kind of sends a message, don't you think? Any questions, y'all? Because I'm gonna go. And when it comes to Ukraine, like Ukrainians are also very anti-Semitic. And those assholes, like, do I like them? No. So to be honest, when that started, the only thing I could say, like, objectively, is that it's too bad Russian army is not prepared, but do I like the Ukrainians? Nah, I don't care about them. Do I think the Russians are... I like the Russians a little bit more than the Ukrainians, but I don't think the way the Russians are conducting themselves or that what they're doing in Ukraine is something that I can support at all. At all. Like, it's like, why? Like, I wasn't the person who waved the Ukrainian flag, to be honest. Maybe the moral thing was to support Ukraine, you know. But on the other hand, I feel like they had it coming. They didn't prepare for it. Neither side did. Not my problem. The problem is, of course, that Russia was pushed to, like, just climb a tree, and now it's too late, you know. Thank you. Copying question to audience, like, sub, and give her money. Yes, please, guys. It's like, it's, to me, like, the thing was, like, the writing was on the wall. It was clear that the Russian gonna enter Ukraine, that Russia is gonna fuck up their own citizens. And the Ukrainians did nothing really. It's like, yeah, you poked the bear. You kept Russia in arm's length. You know, with the campaign of, like, the Russian, and, like, Russians are assholes. Yes, were they hacking everywhere? Yeah, they're hacking everywhere. But still, you know, if it's like, you can't be halfway. It's like, it's either you cooperate properly or you fight properly. That's it. Lol, enough heard. I like Russian more than Ukrainians. I don't care about Ukrainians. Such a cruel comment. I think all right-wingers like more the firm hand of a dictatorship. No, it's not about that. It's not about that. It's like, how do I explain? It's just that with Russia, they're awful, 100%. But there were still moments where Russia did something that I was like, at least they helped, you know, they saved us. Like it or not, like my family, like my mother's family, they survived because they were in Russia. Like it or not, like it or not, in a certain very like weird way, like yeah, I owe my life to Russia being there, which I cannot say about Ukraine at all, you know. It's like, why don't I care about Ukraine? Like, because you know what? Because there is a do I think it's okay? No. Do I think it's all right? No. But I have, but like, you know, like I don't things that happen in Sudan are not okay either. Like, what can I do? You know, I'm not gonna sit and worry about it because it. The Aralik tribes, Eureka, Zelensky openly tolerates Nazi marches in Ukraine, where they idolize Ukrainian Nazi collaborators who were responsible for wiping out Jews. Like, this is the thing. It's like, this is the feeling, like, both suck. Okay, Russia and Ukraine both suck. But they both deserve better than this, okay? Neither side should be treated as meat for ground meat for fighting. No, I think if you ask me, okay, you should ask it like the more thing, like Russians, Ukrainians. It's problematic. I think Putin should have been eliminated. There was also, I think, that he got like a treatment with steroids, and once you get like treatment with steroids, it can play with your brain, and you become more paranoid. It can like trigger paranoia and stuff. And he was clearly on steroids at some point, so that might have effed up his brain, and you know that didn't help at all. Why would we care for Israel then? We never have lived there. Our parents are not from there. You care for the good and its preservance. That's why people support Ukraine and Israel. I said, listen, like I support Ukraine, not support Ukraine. It's either like you go all the way and you help Ukraine all the way. It's the middle ground that just effed up everything. Like, I agree, like when it comes to the West, when it comes to Nigel Farage and what he was saying, no, I think you're wrong. I think they should have went full on against Russia. That's what I think. They should have went full on against Russia. Like, technically speaking, I don't think it's okay that Russia invaded Ukraine at all. When it comes to the Ukrainian people, Russian people, it's like, it's a thing, you know. It's like, should I care? Yeah, okay. So if I care about Ukrainians, what can? Do the Ukrainians care about me? No. Do Russians care about me? Probably not too. You guys are like fighting about who is better, Russia, or like who is worse, Russia, Ukraine. The thing is, like, Ukraine never supported Israel, to be honest. Like, do I think this war is stupid? Yes. Do I think it should have not happened? Yes. But then it's like, Ukraine also, Ukraine, they gave up, the Ukrainians, like, they were so, like, gullible when they just gave up on their nukes. Like, the Ukrainians were, like, this is what pisses me off about the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians were gullible as F, you know? Like, I feel sorry for the Ukrainians, but they kind of dug up their own grave. I kind of like... Carlos Rodriguez, thank you so much for your super chat. Wow, that's amazing. And like I said, like, the only reason is, like, I know what happened to the family, like my mother's family that stayed in that area, okay? I know that they 100% didn't survive, all of them. Like, even though it's mostly like pretty extended family, right? Because it like my mom's family, like, they moved to Russia from Lithuania even before World War One started, like around World War One, right? Like a long time ago. But with all the horribleness of Russia, it's also the country that supplied us with weapons in 48. It's also the country that, the only place that Jews could run in towards to escape the Nazis, like, because all other ways were closed up. It's complicated. But the people, like, this is why I said, like, I disagreed with Russia on the get-go, because they're butchering their own citizens. They're butchering their own citizens. And yeah, no doubt that later, like, after the 48 war, like, pretty quickly Russia went into the direction of annihilating the Jews in general. That's also true. It's complicated. Like, if you ask me, like, no, it's not okay. It's not, that war is very unnecessary. But, you know, to go around and, like, wave a Ukrainian flag, I don't know, that also feels weird to me. Let's see. Let's see. I'm Greek and Ukrainian. I'm Greek and Ukraine never supported Greece in something, neither Israel. Israel does support Greece. But I support both of them because they're directed towards a civilized West, so this is enough reason. Yes, there is that aspect, yeah. Like Nathan Sharansky, that's his view, right? Is like he's mad that Israel didn't 100% like side on Ukrainian side because of that, like because of their moral stance. And maybe it wasn't wrong for Israel not to do that. But I don't know. It's complicated. It's interesting. Like it's an interesting to see you guys talk. Like I don't think what's happening in Ukraine is okay, but yeah, coping is the best person here. It is not complicated. Give Rebecca some money. Yeah, 100%. Thank you. Let's see. If you know Russian extended history, you do know that Russia is extremely slow to change their ways. Like it will take 50 to 100 years until Russia becomes the way you'd like it to become. It is what it is. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It is also problematic. Like look at the map. Like look at Russia, okay? If this is closed and this area is close to them, then they're completely isolated. Like, look, Moscow is here. They lose everything. Like the only sea they have is like this is frozen. Okay, this is frozen. This is all frozen. Like it is a threat to them to think that this is gonna be closed. Like they're gonna get isolated. This plays to that fear of trade, right? How they're gonna trade if this is closed? They're gonna completely get like Ukraine, closing off, and it's like you have that, and it's all closed off, and this is frozen. Basically, this is what they have left, and but Moscow is here. It's not here. Moscow is not here. It's here. It is kind of like geographically, like it can suffocate them. There is a certain threat there. The only question is like, is this threat real or not? Would the West actually try to suffocate Russia or not? Are you guys talking? You guys, you still have, you know how far that is? You know how far that is? That is so far. This is Moscow is here, right? Like, this is super far. Rebecca, you are generalizing as to your generation contradicts each other. For example, you said the West is evil, and at the same time you praise it for for its values. Maybe you're just more too simple-minded. Did you consider that, Poland, Israel? I think your mind is just doesn't have enough folds. Because you can have good values on paper and then be a shitty person in reality, right? It doesn't contradict each other. But it's better to be friends with somebody who, at least on paper, tries to follow like a set of values that is good. Copying you host us on, say, StreamYard, and we all argue for you. I want to see how I do that, like how I can host you guys and stuff. I'll do it at some point. Sophia, people who think that they can cooperate with Islam, and especially journalists who romanticize terrorists and normalize their views, remind me that yeah, it's like Russia does it, but the Americans do this exactly the same thing with cooperating with Iran. The America is cooperating with Iran and Saudi Arabia. Like they're doing exactly the same thing. And like when they were fighting the Soviets in Vietnam, they were supporting the Pol Pot in Cambodia. They were supporting him, and he got to die a natural death. And the whole time America was like with it, with Cambodia. This person killed 50% of 25%, I don't remember, like of its own population. Like things that like Afghanistan, what's like Iran, like not to talk about the Ayatollah regime that took over, also thanks to combined intervention. So not also only the communists cooperating with the Islamists. It's also the West that wanted to bring down the Shah. It's not easy. The truth is like it would be way easier. People were like actually like following like, but at least like when it comes to the West, like there is how would I put it? When it comes to dictatorship, it's 50-50. They're with you or they're not with you, okay? Because it depends on like on a whim of the government. When it comes to the United States, it's like the reason like the United States couldn't go 100% against Israel is because it's 25% versus 75. Because you have to have both the government and the population aligned to have a certain policy against Israel, right? Let's say if you want to nuke Israel, in Russia, that's 50-50 with like Russia, like with the kind of... But the United States, it's 25%, 75%, because you need to have both the consensus of the people and the government that wants to go that way. Mm-hmm. And also, like you can see, like it's ridiculous, right? You cannot compare it. But Russia throws their opponents to jail, and the Americans also started trying to put, like they somehow the people they like get away from, like don't get trials, and those they don't like get trials, even though they commit, let's say, the same crime. 25%. 25% government, 70%. Like, no, like it's like two conflicts. Like you have to have both the people and the government. Like, so you have the deep state, right, in the United States that is very much against Israel, but you have the American population that is for Israel. So it makes it really hard for the American, like the deep state in America to nuke Israel, like they wanted to, for example, in the 50s. Also in the 50s, like, you know. So this is what I'm saying, like, you have to have, so if you have like flipping coins, right, then you have to have both aligned against Israel, and that's less of chances than just one flipping coin. Mm-hmm. Sir TDS, Rebecca Bursa, 80% of US voters support Israel after October 7, according to our... Exactly. That's what I say. Like, but in Russia, does it matter if the population supports Israel or not? Somebody asks them? Nobody asks them. Like, the government is like, okay, is going against Israel, is this does it mean that we're gonna keep the power, or we don't? Right? Like, this is the only interest they have. They don't ask their population what they think about it. So this is why it's better to play with democracies. More wiggle room. Also, you have like free speech, so you can go and present your case, like in theory. In reality. All right, any last questions? Can go. All right, it's like... Who said that is you can, yeah, life is complicated. I cannot go party and sleep, get a full night's sleep at the same night. You know, it's like, c'est la vie. Yeah, any last questions before we're gonna all sleep? Nice, is funny. I told my brother and his wife about Qatar funding all the hate against Israel since 2006. I think that now they see me as the weird uncle who believe in conspiracy theories. Like now, after it was proven, or like before? Michael, Rebecca, do you like cats or dogs? I like dogs more, I think. But cats are okay. I don't have problem with anyone or anything. To audience, tell Rabbi her makeup fits her style. Thank you. To be honest, in real life, usually I don't wear makeup at all. But I like wearing makeup on camera. Mm-hmm. All right, you guys. I think we can go to sleep. I don't see any more questions. I've been reading your comments. Thank you all. Good night.